Welcome back to another episode of Excuse My Grandma. It's Kim and my co-host.
Grandma Gail.
Grandma, we've been busy.
Yes, we have.
We went to an event with Lancome earlier in the week, which was fun. I mean, the whole time you were like, who's Olivia Rodrigo? She can't be famous. I was like, she's literally the most famous.
I think I have to be a little younger to understand who she is, but she was quite beautiful, and the show was fun. And of course, I won something with those claws, and I guess I'm not very good ever at these games.
The claw game at an arcade.
Exactly.
They had that for Juicy Tubes.
Exactly. So we had fun, and it's always nice to see a lot of the people that we see at these influencer events.
Yeah, you start to see some of the same people,
Right.
or you get to know the team, which is always
fun.
like the best case scenario of going to these things, especially if you are working in content and you are treating it like a business. Like, you definitely want to meet the team of a brand that you really love, because then
Right.
hopefully they think of you when they have campaigns.
And that's very important because this is a business.
She's saying it's important, but like, I've had to tell you that 500 times for it to sink in.
Well, the funny thing was you didn't realize it. I'm coming from one location, you were coming from another, and I tell the driver where we're going, and I said, "My gosh, I think I've been here before. I think I was just here last week." And as we're driving down the side streets, I said, "I know we've been here." And I called up Kim on the phone, and of course, we had been there a week before for Amazon. They take these spaces and by these large companies, and they reinvent the spaces,
Yeah.
which is so cool. And there must be one or two of these locations that are down on the Lower East Side that are really adaptable for this.
But I had not been there prior to the Amazon event, I don't think.
No, I think I was there for something else, but not at
Maybe.
that location. It was somewhere in that area. But
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
it was so much fun. I said, I knew we were here. I mean, I'm getting to know the local shops that are in the neighborhood because everything is happening in that downtown spot.
Most of the events we go to are downtown. And you don't come to all of them with me.
No, I
but-
can't, Kimberly. I would be dead.
Yeah, true. But like the important ones you
Right.
try to come, or the ones that we're particularly interested in. Like,
Right.
we're going to Tribeca Film Festival with Hulu.
Yeah, and I
later
happen
this
to love
week.
Lancome, and I love Amazon, so you knew I was going to go to those two.
Yes. And the Tribeca stuff should be fun.
I'm very excited.
I went to the Call Her Alex documentary, the Alex Cooper, the Call Her Daddy podcaster.
Who you're obsessed with.
I just really look at her as like a North Star of content creators
Okay.
and podcasters, because she's so successful. So it's nice. It feels like when you look up to someone and they have a win, it feels like you have a win, or you're like
Absolutely.
on the way. I don't know if you ever had that with anyone you looked up to.
Just my mother.
Yeah.
Just my mother.
But were there certain celebrities like that when you went to see them in concert? Let's say you were like extra excited.
I think the only one that I really, because she's my age, was Barbara Streisand. So
Yeah.
we started off very young together when she was like 18,
Right.
19, and I saw her in a play, and I followed her career. But I was never as starstruck.
Well, I think also you were never trying to be in the
In that-
industry.
correct.
So it didn't
Certainly
feel as
wasn't.
close to home.
Correct.
Versus like maybe if you saw a really successful lawyer, maybe you would feel like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I want to talk to them
That's
and
true.
like follow in their footsteps in some way.
I think I was too busy being a mommy, so I
guess you're
think I
saying it.
I think I always thought that certain people were fabulous in their fields, and I looked up to them. But it
Right.
wasn't anybody I really wanted to emulate. I was very happy in the role I chose, but it's different now. So I'm excited for all the young girls and the young men who can find a hero and follow their star.
But also what you're saying of like you were happy with the role you were in, and your mom was that. So it's
Yes.
like you were, in a way, you
And
were
my
looking at
grandmother,
somebody
definitely I was
in
looking
that role.
no question.
Right. So everybody
Role
has
models.
role models of some
Well,
sort.
hopefully.
Yes. And then we were in the Hamptons. I went to play cards with your friends
Oh,
for a little
gosh.
bit, made an appearance. Are they sick of me?
I don't think they're sick of you. I think that we had fun. It was one of the. I can't take it. There's been 6 weekends where it's been raining, so everything indoor activities are certainly paramount in everybody's thoughts. But we had fun, and I think they were excited when you came. And you filmed a couple of things which were silly, but we had fun.
Yes. Okay, let's go to Grandma Gail's voicemail. someone sent in a voicemail question for us.
Okay.
So let's listen.
Hi. I'm thinking about starting a podcast. I was wondering if you had any advice, and or any tips for someone who wants to start a podcast or anything that you think really helped you when you were starting out.
I love when guys call
I think
in.
it's great. Well,
Hello.
so many of the podcasts are by guys. So, I mean, it's
Yeah, frankly, too many.
and very successful.
But yes, I have tons of tips. It could be an entire podcast worth of them. I would listen. I did a solo episode a few months ago where I really went into detail on like the equipment you need and how to start a podcast and stuff like that. But briefly,
Do you remember the date on that? So if he wants to go
it's a
back.
few months back and it'll be called like Excuse My Solo for
Okay.
my solo episodes. But if you're watching the episode now, you see we're like in a really nice studio. It wasn't always that way. You can 100% podcast from home.
Exactly. We did for at least a couple of years.
Yes, but I think when it gets to a point where you're really trying to up your production value,
Right.
or if you're not good with equipment and like you've saved up and you really want to come to a studio like this, absolutely do so. But
So it's fine if you have a friend that can help you out.
yes, like somebody,
For the
it's actually, by
lighting.
the way, like I'm not a tech wizard. It's not that complicated.
Right.
It just
You did it.
it took a lot, especially because when we started 4.5, 5 years ago, it wasn't as mainstream, so
Mhm.
there wasn't as many resources on how to do it, so I think I was, like, really digging on the internet to figure out, like, the kind of equipment I needed, but what you really need is a microphone. I got, like, a $30 one off Amazon. I have it linked on our Amazon storefront, and I just, you need, like, the correct adapter to plug it into your laptop. You can get a sound mixer, you really don't need one if it's just you or two people, if you just plug it
But
into
you
your
had one, Kim. It was very good.
Yeah, it
We
just
used
makes
that
it,
for a
like,
long
you have a
time.
little bit more control that way,
Right.
but you really don't need it, and then your iPhone or a camera to just film you if you want it to be video. Obviously, it's a audio first, format podcasting, so you don't even really need video, and I would say then there's all this more technical stuff of, you need a host platform, which is usually free, and, that sends out an RSS feed that gets it on all the platforms like Spotify and Apple, but basically,
You can
you
start simple. You can
need
start
you
simple.
need the content, like, you
Right.
just need
You need something good to talk about to your audience.
yes, a story, a different angle. There are so many podcasts out there, so I think it took us a really long time. I knew I wanted to do something with my grandma, and I had the concept in my head, but I couldn't name it for, like, 7 months, stalled us too.
Well, it was also during COVID, so you had plenty of time to think about it.
Yes, but I think, just start, go with whatever feels right to you, go with whatever title feels right to you, and see if people resonate, and I think the best way too, since I will say podcasts don't have the best, algorithm for discovery, the best thing is to be clipping up your, clips from your episode and putting it on TikTok and Instagram, YouTube, so people can discover it that way.
And it's harder than it looks. So, you know what? You really have to make it a business. You have to think about it carefully. It's just not a sideline that you can do for a half an hour and do it properly. But if it is something you really want to start in this profession, think about it, get all your equipment together, and get a friend to sort of listen to you and see if you've got the ability to do it if you're coming off well.
That's a
But
good
good
tip.
luck.
I think also, like, we're not saying leave your job and become a podcaster.
Exactly.
But I think it is an easy thing if it's literally 30 to an hour, like, of talking that you can do on a random weekend, and if it gains traction, of course, then you can think about
Right.
leaving your job and
But
doing
don't
it as
leave
a
yet.
career. But, it is an easy thing to at least start on the side, but it's not an easy thing to become successful at as a side gig. So, those are
Okay.
really the main thoughts. Okay, let's move on to Ask Grandma Anything. We'll do some rapid fire questions from our audience, all kind of surrounding career. So someone said, I'm a 50-year-old male Fed employee who has been let go. How do I start over with a career?
Well, it's not easy. A lot of companies want to hire younger people because they're less expensive. But if you have a particular talent, apply to companies that need that talent and don't give up. Send your resume to 20 people or 30 people. It all depends on what you do. Be a little creative. Think a little bit out of the box now, because you've got 20-year-olds that are constantly on screens figuring out things. So it is a little more difficult, but you will find something
I
if
think
you're
there
good.
also are executive search firms that you can like work with where they place you.
Yes, there certainly are, but they always look for, they're not, so many of them don't look for 50-year-olds. So it is a harder thing for you, but certainly go into those search firms as well.
Yeah,
And good luck.
Yeah, it's also never too late to start a new career, as we
Correct.
talk about all the
Sometimes
time.
you can flip it,
Yeah.
do something different.
Daughter graduating from high school soon, don't have a career path. Ideas for her? I think there's a lot of pressure to like have a career path. I think you can start with whatever you can get a job in, and then kind of obviously you have to be interested in it, and then go from there. It's not calling what the rest of your life will look like. But yeah, I think use your personal network, use your college network, your high
Well,
school
she's
network.
going out of high school, right?
Right. So,
I think if she's not going on to college, then she has to find a career. There's certainly plenty of them in the health field that take, as long as you graduated from high school, you can do some work in hospitals, and then perhaps go on to nursing school or some kind of other area that looks friendly upon younger applicants. But there are loads of things to do, certainly restaurant areas, beauty shops that, encourage young people because they know what everything is happening. But you know what? It's only a beginning. And you never know where an 18-year-old will be when she's 25 or he's 25. So let him go with an open mind to a field that he really enjoys and see what happens.
is it worth it to risk it all and redirect from my career to pursue dream of medical school?
Well, medical school is a whole other thing. That's not the same question. It's a different question. I think you have to know, if you're applying to medical school, which is still one of the most wonderful professions to go into. It's very hard today. It's a very, very long educational process. It's very costly, even if you get scholarships, because you're in that for 7-8 years usually. And you need to have family support as well, and people who are around you say, I believe in this for you, and go for it. But we certainly need more doctors and more qualified people. So if you really love that area, try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Okay, we have a very special treat to talk about the Tonys with us this week, because we have to debrief everything with an actual expert of someone who was there. Henry Tish, he's been in the Broadway industry for a while now, started his own company, and is a really successful producer. So
and very exciting, since his play won a Tony. So this is really spectacular. I'm so excited for you all to listen to him.
So let's bring out Henry. We are joined by Henry Tish. We're so excited to talk Tonys and hear all about your career in Broadway. So Henry, welcome to Excuse My Grandma.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you work for Key to the City Productions. Congratulations on the Picture of Dorian Gray.
Yay!
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's been a very long and exciting journey with this show. My producing partner, Amanda Lippitz, and I first saw an archival video of the premiere production in Sydney.
Oh, wow.
Which premiered the summer of 2020. And we saw this video about 4 years ago. And it's just been a really amazing journey of getting it first to the West End and then to Broadway. And we had a very exciting night at the Tony Awards.
Yeah, 6
this
noms.
past weekend.
Huge.
Yes.
And
yeah.
Sarah Snook obviously winning. So I don't know a lot about the behind the scenes of how it comes to life, these shows. When you discovered it in Sydney, was she in it already?
She was not. No, there
Okay.
was a phenomenal performer named Erin Jean Norville who did it in Australia, and her understudy, Nikki Shields. And they did a return season in Australia as well. And then when we brought it to the West End, that's when Sarah came and joined the project.
Amazing.
And that was about a year ago.
Good. I'm going to see it Wednesday night. She
Yeah.
she better not be. Does she ever get replaced by the understudy? I'll have a nervous
We
breakdown.
actually don't have an understudy.
Oh, yay!
So it is.
So,
it's
all right,
very
I'm
high
happy.
stress for us, but it means that you will see her.
All right, 'cause I really want to see her. I'm so excited.
I mean, with a one-woman show, such an intense performance, I feel like it would be hard to have multiple people
Yeah,
take that
absolutely.
on.
And this is a very high-tech production as well. Sarah plays 26
Mm.
characters, and she is
She's amazing.
interacting with quite a bit of pre-recorded video of herself
Mhm.
that was filmed about a year and a half ago before the London run. And so uh, it's very dependent on her performance, and would be very difficult to have an understudy. But part of the beauty of it is that although it is a one-person show, she also has 5 onstage camera operators with her and
Right.
a crew of more than 20 people, all of whom are doing this very highly choreographed piece
Mhm.
of theater together, and in a way where the crew is very exposed and they're her
Oh,
scene partners. So it, in a funny way, is really a big company.
an
Yeah.
Yeah.
ensemble.
How do you think the tech driven, like, narrative of it all really contributed to the story itself?
Yeah, it's very reflective of the story. Our brilliant director and adapter, Kip Williams, was very inspired by some writing of Oscar Wilde's, where
Mhm.
he talked about how uh, Dorian Gray really is 3 versions of himself. And that is what inspired Kip to do this idea where it's one actor
Mhm.
playing multiple versions of themselves against themselves. And so much of the story is about self-image. It's
Right.
about how we see ourselves.
Never growing old.
Yes, never growing old. It's about vanity. And
Right.
so there's a lot of really fun technology in the show that has to do with social media and
Mhm.
with filters.
Right.
And so it just feels very, very modern, even though the novel that it's based on was written over 100 years
Mhm.
ago.
When not even just with this play, but, like, in general, how do you know that something has the potential when you're just trying to take it from a concept or seeing it in a small theater to eventually being on
You have to be
Broadway?
in love with the process and with the show.
Exactly right. And you really have to trust your gut.
Right.
I mean, I think there are certainly ways that you can evaluate things, and some of that is based on sales of earlier production. Some of it is based on just sort of informal polling of people.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, it's really what you believe will sell, and sometimes that is breaking the mold of what has sold in the past, but just what you feel will really resonate with audiences.
Yeah. How do you think you develop those skills, or is it just having gone to theater your whole
Well, wait
life?
a minute. Let's do a little background on Henry. Henry went to, he's been in this field of acting since he was a young man. He certainly did it at Yale.
Yes,
And
yes. So,
so I want to hear a little bit of that.
yeah, I
Give
grew up
us some background. I mean, the
sure,
audience loves to hear this.
sure. I grew up in New York City, and so I was very exposed to theater, and I really fell in love with theater when I was in middle school, basically.
You
And
too.
Yeah.
yeah, and I knew that I didn't want to perform. I had terrible stage fright. I wasn't happy on stage. And I think growing up in New York and being so close to the professional theater industry, I knew enough to know that producer was a role that existed. I don't know
Mhm.
that I actually could have told you what it was at the
Right.
time, but I stubbornly decided that's what I was going to do.
Mhm.
And so I stage managed in high school. When I got to college at Yale, I did produce a lot of extracurricular
Mhm.
theater. And one of the things that's so amazing about the Yale theater program is that it really is largely student produced. So I really sort of got my hands dirty doing that. Post college, I worked for Disney for their theater
So
division,
jealous.
which was an amazing place, developing shows for Broadway and for professional theaters, but also I got to develop shows for amateur theater and for educational theater as well, which was really amazing.
Mhm.
And then about 4 years ago, my producing partner and I started our company. And so it's just been something that I've been working at for a really long time. And to your question, it is a lot of just honing your own taste and seeing as much as you can see
Mhm.
and seeing what works and seeing what doesn't work and sort of learning the box of it all so that you can learn how to break the box
Yeah.
when that's
Yeah,
warranted.
so true.
And I think it's a very good thing for our listeners, even for to give advice to their children, their grandchildren. You have to start when it's a passion, really. It's very
Yeah.
much the same time frame that he was doing theater. You were going on podcasts with me, but you had really prior to that also dabbled in school, in the plays and all that. So it was something that you, in the back of your mind, always loved. And so I think,
Yeah, I don't think people are like, I'm going to make $1 billion.
no, I don't think it's
I
about the
think it's
money.
about passion. Like, the passion has to
Exactly.
be there for sure. But I guess like, how do you start a career?
And
in
people
drama?
should encourage, because the arts is such an important part of person's development. It doesn't necessarily have to be a career moment, but it still broadens your mind on what's out there and the beauty of all different kinds of productions. If you live in a small town, there's always a traveling company that comes in. Take your grandchild, take your child, and expose them to the beautiful things that have come about and have gotten to your town. If you live in a place like Chicago or California or New York, it's there. So make it available to your youngster, and it never can hurt. It doesn't necessarily have to be a career, but it is enlightening and opens the mind to new things and new ideas that are out there. It's usually very talented people.
Yes.
Sometimes way out, and you really, in the case we'll talk about it, like Hamilton, that nobody knew what he was doing, and now he created an entire world around something that was so different 10 years ago. So I think continue with Henry. I just wanted to put that in because I really do think we have a responsibility to our children and our grandchildren to open it to theater on every level, whether it be Broadway or small little community theaters.
I couldn't agree more. And arts education and arts access is something I'm so passionate about. Separate from my producing career, I am the incoming chair at New 42, which is an organization
Terrific.
that really is all about providing access to the arts from the earliest years onward. We run the New Victory Theater, which does theater for young audiences on 42nd Street. And there is so much research about how important it is to see theater from a really young age. It just fosters empathy and resilience and so many things. And Gail, to your point, Cola Scola, who just won Tony for Best Actor in a play.
Oh, Mary.
In Oh,
I
Mary,
watched
yes.
50 TikToks of him last night.
Well, he's amazing.
Or of them.
Right.
But I went through literally just like a rabbit hole.
No, Cole is a superstar. Cole has been a real force in sort of the queer downtown comedy scene for a very long time. They've been working at this for a really, really long time, and it's so amazing to see them succeed in this huge way. But they spoke at what's called the Spring Road Conference, when all the touring theater presenters and operators come into town for a conference every spring. And Cole gave the keynote speech, and it was all about the power of having theater come to them, right? Growing up, and the world that opened up. So to your point, Gail, like we're lucky that we live in New York. It is the epicenter of this industry. We have a lot of access to it, but it's everywhere, and so it's really amazing that to give access to it really wherever you can.
Kudos to the Academy. They gave an award to the drama teacher. I think it was in Brooklyn. I think he's from Brooklyn. But on encouraging young people to go into theater. And I know many of the New York theaters have tickets for schools that are like $10. So they really can bring it, if they apply for it, there's a way of bringing their classes to the theater. And that's very important because collectively, when you see it as a group and not even as an isolated person, I think is more beneficial because then you can share it and talk to your classmates.
Totally. And that's part of the fun is being able to talk about it.
Right.
I think it's so much fun to go with a group, with friends, and be able to compare your experiences. Yeah.
I feel like I'm pretty tuned into Broadway. Am I living under a rock, though, that I didn't know who Cole was?
No, because Cole only very recently existed within what I would call sort of the Broadway frame.
Right.
Cole,
they were like the star of the show, of the Tony.
Yes, I mean, and they were exceptional on the Tonys, and they're so funny. But Cole's done a little bit of TV, or a fair amount of TV.
Okay.
But then really comes from like the downtown, sort of very out there scene. Yes,
Next
which
time
is
you
so
go,
fun.
come.
Yes,
Okay.
totally. Yeah. Like Cole came out of a lot of Joe's Pub stuff. Just a lot of these like very, very sort of like downtown one night venues. Yeah.
I want to ask both of you what the first show you ever saw was.
Oh my gosh.
Do you remember?
I think I do remember. I think my parents, because we lived in the suburbs and it was a big deal to come into the theater. I think my first show might have been Oklahoma when I was very little.
Wow.
My parents, we loved musicals in the 50s.
Yeah.
And I think that
Well,
that
lots
show
of
might have been
people born in the
1948.
50s.
What I think I was very little, but I would come in very often and stay. We would come in, we'd have dinner, we'd make it a very special occasion. I mean, the tickets weren't like they are now, but we would, it was special to
Yeah.
come in. And I remember them all fondly. And my father loved to sing. So he loved the Pirates of Penzance, which I was
That's
so
so
happy
nice.
to see that
Yeah.
on the show. It almost felt like he was back in my life for the second that
Oh.
Hyde Pierce was singing.
Follow up. When you see reboots
Yeah.
or revivals, sorry, like, do you ever think, oh, well, when I saw it 50 years ago, it
Was better? Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. I saw Carousel. I saw Oklahoma actually recently.
Yeah.
I did think because I thought it was more true to what the author had in mind, but we're now making it so that it's for a wider audience. When we went to the theater in the 50s and even early 60s, 60s, I was already married, so it had to be the 50s. It was very different theater than it is now, and very different programs and what was acceptable in the
Yeah.
theater, right,
Yeah.
Henry?
Well, and Oklahoma's a funny example because Oklahoma, when it premiered, was very avant-garde.
Yeah.
And you don't think of that
Right.
today. And actually, the revival that you probably
Right.
would have seen
Right.
7 or 8 years ago was itself avant-garde today.
Yes.
But if you see a traditional production of Oklahoma, that feels old-fashioned.
Right.
Right.
So
That's the issue.
a lot of it is the context of
Mhm.
sort of when it originally premiered and what
And who's seeing it?
Yeah, totally.
I
Totally.
think they've adapted it to audiences, which is
Yeah.
so wonderful.
Yeah.
I did want to ask more about like inclusivity of
Okay.
theater later, but what was the first show you saw?
I actually don't remember because I was quite young.
Yeah.
I know it was either Beauty and the Beast or The Lion King.
Yes.
Didn't you work on The Lion King as you?
I did. Yes, when I was
Yeah,
at
that's great.
Disney,
Right.
I got to work on The Lion King. I got to
That was so fabulous, that production.
do a little bit translations for international productions. I got to work with the team that maintains the show around the world, which was really fascinating because there is an army of associates who just travel the world.
Puppetry and
Yes,
that was just
yes.
amazing.
Well, also what's interesting, I think Lion King was my 2 or Wicked or something, but I feel like Lion King seemed high tech in a way at
Yeah,
the time.
then.
And now it's like with so many other shows that have like actual screens behind and all of that, it feels
But it was still very innovative with the puppets.
yes,
I
but
think they were brilliant.
yes.
I don't know many.
Were you shocked though, like seeing? I feel like Dear Evan Hansen is what's coming to mind for me, but like the first time where I'm seeing like tons of screens on a
Yeah, well,
stage.
and Dear Evan Hansen was a different kind of show where you were dealing with something that you wouldn't have dealt with 10 years ago. With suicide and drugs and that's become a much more relevant and certainly important subject matter
Yeah.
now. When I was, even 15 years ago, I don't think I would have felt comfortable. I think I'll tell you what was the most uncomfortable theater experience for me, because I was living it at the time, was Rent. And that was such a brilliant production. I cried during Rent. I mean, it was really during the 80s.
Yeah.
And I still cry during Rent. But, it got great reviews, but it was not universally loved as it is now. It's much more accepted now. Let's
Sure.
face it. It's a difference of timing. But that was probably one of the hardest shows that I remember seeing in the 80s. So, each generation, I think, and certainly under Henry's God.
Rent was
the
the
90s.
90s.
90s,
yeah.
maybe
About
early, but it was
Right.
about
Yeah.
85, 86, 87. But I think that, you have to have a lot of guts as a producer.
Yeah, totally.
To put these kind of shows on, either you don't care about the monetary because it could be a major flop.
Well, you're influencing the zeitgeist.
Correct.
Like
Correct.
that's a really big responsibility to
absolutely.
change conversations.
Right.
Yes.
And that's what Henry's doing.
Right.
He's changing the conversation.
Mhm.
He really is. And he's doing shows that might not have hit the general audiences, but they are going to hit the general audiences because of his efforts.
Right.
I'm
right.
so
And
proud of him.
Thank you. And my company is called Key to the City Productions because you get a key to the city when you do good in your community and when you
Mhm.
do good in the world. And we feel really strongly that everything we do needs to have some sort of social impact component
Right.
to it. But we also have pretty commercial taste.
Mhm.
And so it's that balance of
Right.
things that are going to resonate with audiences, but also
Mhm.
move the needle.
Well, I think they said on the Tonys Broadway made the most money this year than ever before. Is that one of the reasons you think because it's widely accessible now, like with the stories or like more inclusive? Like, what do you think the reason
Yeah,
is?
I mean, this season in particular was a spectacular season, and there was kind of something for everyone, which
Mhm.
I loved about it, and
Yeah.
not just something for everyone, but something good for everyone.
Yeah.
And you look at a show like Oh Mary, which couldn't be more different than a show like The Picture of Dorian Gray, which couldn't be more different than the revival of Our Town,
Mhm.
and that's just plays, right? And so there was really, no matter sort of what your taste is, there was something interesting to see, and that makes a big difference in
Yeah.
terms of ticket sales.
I also feel like there was a lot of star power in that people who don't typically go to Broadway, but watch a lot of TV or movies, like, would go to see those
Yes.
celebrities. Is that something that is really integral, you think, into making a show popular now?
It has as costs of creating and operating a show have risen,
Mhm.
it has become a much more core part of the business model of the
Mhm.
theater industry. And it's going to be interesting to see how that continues to
Right.
evolve. But there is something really powerful, especially in our world of screens.
Mhm.
There's something really powerful about being in the room
Where it
with
happened.
someone. Yeah, yeah, exactly. With
There's your
someone who you
soundbite.
admire, and someone who generally is a great talent, right? I
Mhm.
mean, there's something like, I'll use Sarah Snook as an example.
Mhm.
Um, there's just something magnetic about being in the room with her as she does
Mhm.
that performance.
Right. That's what everybody
And it
says.
becomes a you had to be there moment.
Mhm. And I wanted to talk too because I feel Broadway has also made its way into your personal life.
Yes.
Your husband is also in the industry. Also, I know this personally that you had like a whole Broadway number at your wedding. I want to hear about.
Absolutely. So my husband, Sean Walsh,
It was adorable and terrific, and
he
I love him.
is. I agree. I couldn't agree more, Gail. He runs strategy and business development, and operations for a company called Ampersand, which is Benj Pasek and Justin Paul, the songwriters production company. And his path in the entertainment industry is that he came through the corporate strategy side of the industry. So he was in 3 different divisions at Disney, and then was at NBC Universal, and
Did you meet
now
at Disney?
we did. Yeah,
Oh, nice.
we
Oh, I
we
didn't know
had
that.
some friends in common. He lived in LA, I lived in New York.
Been there.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Doing it
we
now.
Doing it.
we met originally in a networking capacity, and then became friends, and then
So
started dating, and he moved to New York about 6 months after we started dating. And then
The
pretty soon
rest is
after that, yeah,
history.
exactly. Pretty soon
Rest
after
is
that,
history.
COVID hit, and
Right.
we moved in with my parents, and then the rest really was history. But we got married a little over a year ago, last April, and we had a pretty big wedding where there's a lot that goes into wedding planning. And one of the things that was really important to us very early on in that wedding planning process was to find something that could be just for us, not about our parents, not about our guests, not about
Mhm.
hitting the deadlines. And we came up with this idea of a special first dance. And Sean performed all through college, has an amazing voice,
Mm.
is so at home on stage.
He's
As I mentioned,
terrific.
I hate being
Opposites.
on
They're
stage.
opposites.
Yes. And so we worked with Sarah Ogleby, who is an amazing choreographer and also just like an amazing soul. She has the biggest heart. And we crafted this musical number that uh, let us shine, but also built a lot around us
Terrific.
with other performers so that it wasn't all on my dancing abilities or
Right.
non-abilities. And
Terrific.
what was really special about it is that we started rehearsing about 6 weeks before the wedding, and no one knew we were doing this. And so once or twice a week, it became this really special moment of like, we're going to go do our secret little thing that is
Cute.
just for us. We sort of
Mhm.
with Sarah and her associates who taught us how to dance, we created this like really special little space leading up to the wedding. And it was so fun for all our guests who got this big performance, but it was also really, really meaningful for us. Yeah.
Terrific.
What was harder, producing that or a Broadway show?
Oh, I would say producing a Broadway show was harder,
Yeah.
but being in the spotlight like that it just put me so out of my comfort zone, which I came to love and appreciate, but it was scary. Yeah.
Yeah. I also, since it is Pride Month, I wanted to ask about inclusivity, especially in the theater industry.
Yeah.
How do you feel like they do a good job compared to like other industries, or how do you think they could kind of do better?
Yeah, I think that theater is quite inclusive and certainly thinks about it in, I would argue, a different way than other industries. So much of our world obviously is about telling stories and thinking about what stories get told and who tells them and how you tell them. And so I would say that maybe inclusivity is a little bit more top of mind for us. And then also theater is a world where like the misfits of the world have always felt at home.
Right.
And it's why, Gail, to your point about the 80s, like theater has always been a particularly queer industry, and it was devastated by the AIDS crisis. But it is a place where those who haven't always fit in elsewhere
Fit in there.
fit in. And so it's not to say that the industry doesn't have more work to do. There's always more work to do. But I think we've been moving in a really great direction. And I think there is this sort of core of inclusivity that maybe isn't naturally in other industries.
Well, I certainly think by the Tonys the other night, you certainly did the job. I mean, they
Yes,
certainly included everything from every walk of life. So
yeah, and
I think the producers can be very proud of
this was
that
a really
production.
amazing year for representation in general, particularly AAPI, Asian American representation, queer representation. I mean, for Cole to win Best Actor during this Pride Month is amazing.
Right.
Wait, I also need to ask, because I saw this online and I was curious, the chat about it within the industry. Since Cole won Best Actor, which is a gendered category, like how does that make sense, and how are they planning going forward? Do you think it'll change?
I don't know. I mean, it's interesting because it's a question not just in theater but in
It's
any
sports, it's in so much that's going on now.
But some of the smaller award shows, and by smaller I mean not the Tonys, not the Oscars, not the Emmys, have done away with gendered acting categories. The rule that the Tonys have is that there are still gendered categories, but if you consider yourself non-binary, you get to opt into whichever category you want. So an actor like Cole had the opportunity to say, I want to be considered as an actor, an actress, or not be considered.
Right.
And that's progress, but also compared to maybe what it would have been 10 years ago when it would have just been assumed, but also still not all the way there.
Not perfect yet, but they're working on it. They're working on it.
Okay, let's move on to the drama club so we can talk everything about the Tonys and recap with Henry. You were there, I assume.
I was there.
I was there. I saw, but very, very, I was looking and looking. My eyes hurt by the end of the evening. I didn't really find him. I
Where were
looked
you
very
sitting?
hard.
I was sitting in the orchestra. I mean, Gail, to your point,
I thought maybe it was you, but then I had a feeling that it wasn't.
The challenge is that as Sean and I were sitting there as two guys in tuxes in a sea
Everybody
of guys in
looks the same.
tuxes, right? It couldn't tell you to look out for a certain color or sequin.
Maybe next year wear a color.
Yeah, I think that's the key. Yeah.
And what would we not know watching on TV that you kind of got to experience?
It's a really special night. I mean, it is a long night. You get there sometime before 6, and you aren't out until after 11. But part of what's so cool about it is that the Tonys, unlike some other award shows, are really about not just the awards, but the performances.
Which I love. That's the best part.
Yes,
Yeah, agreed.
it really is. And so it's so fun to see, even just in the theater, one minute you have the Tony-nominated stars of the shows sitting around you, and then you look up and they've been replaced by seat fillers because they've gone backstage to get
Yeah.
into
To change.
costumes for their performances.
Right.
There's so much intricate logistics to
Sure.
it, and it's all such a big dance, which is really, really fun. And this year, they also did a very fun thing where during the commercial breaks in the theaters, they showed clips of all the Tony nominated stars and writers and creatives as kids doing theater.
Oh, that's cute.
And so
I'm
that was
sorry we didn't
really,
see some
really
of that.
special.
That is special.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should put it on social media or
Yes,
something.
totally. They should.
Were you
That-
starstruck by anyone?
Oh, there
Well, he's a star.
was-
So why does he have to be struck
I mean,
anymore?
and it's a small community. So
Right.
I'm not
You're around it a lot.
I'm around it a lot. There were some performances that I was starstruck by. I will say both Nicole Scherzinger,
that was
was
fabulous.
in Sunset Boulevard, and Audra McDonald, who's
Yeah,
in
He was
Gypsy.
fabulous.
They both did these performances where it was just them on stage
Yeah.
doing these tour de force numbers, and I was starstruck by that.
Yeah,
That
they were
felt
fabulous.
really, really
And also Hamilton.
special. Yeah, and Hamilton was incredible.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I love that.
That number was really well done, and to get that original cast back together.
Did they have everyone?
As far as I know,
Yeah.
they did, and they got the ensemble back, and they got them back dancing
Right.
in
Henry
such
said
a
they
big
were still
way.
dancing.
Yeah,
The original
Which-
dancers. I didn't think they could dance 10 years
I mean,
later
10 years
like
later.
that.
There's one of them who's still in the show, which I love.
Oh,
That's amazing.
But the rest of them, like,
Right.
they've all gone on to different things.
Yeah.
And to be able to come back and be right back in it like that. And then you have Ariana DeBose, who obviously has gone on to host the Tonys 3 times
Oh,
herself. And
yeah.
she was in the ensemble
I
of that
didn't even
show. And
notice.
she came back and did it.
Yeah.
So it was really, really cool.
It's great.
Yeah. I feel like
And I thought the host was great.
well,
She
Cynthia
was-
Erivo was literally
She's to me,
God's
she
gift to her.
is so
Totally,
fabulous.
totally. She
Yeah.
is so fabulous.
There was no one else
Yeah.
who could have. I mean, I
Well,
feel
and
like
she
no one
did
could
it
have been
better.
Yeah.
She did it better than most the past ones because
She's
she
so
didn't.
likable.
She was just
Yes.
and she sang and she was herself.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful. We didn't have to listen to a bunch of gibberish that so many times they do to make them look self-important. She was terrific. She was herself, and she sang her voice, out. And I love the one in memoriam too that she sang.
Yeah,
Oh,
so beautiful
it
with
was
Sarah
beautiful.
Bareilles.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
Um,
I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah,
That
I mean,
part
there
I just
are,
loved.
There are some hosts that have just done a really exceptional job,
Yeah.
and I think of Hugh Jackman, I think of
Right.
Patrick Harris,
Yeah.
and to me, Cynthia has
Has she
hit
went? I
that
think she
height.
went above it.
Yes,
It's also she's just so relevant right
Yeah.
now with Wicked and everything that everyone who's watching feels connected in some way or
Yes.
another, which is really special.
totally. And then she opens her mouth and sings, and
Right,
you're
exactly.
like,
And then you're blown
yeah,
away.
your jaw's on the floor.
Insane. What other big moments did you have like takeaways from throughout the night?
I would say that my takeaways were that just it was a really, really exciting night of honoring so many great shows. I mean, I was so happy that maybe Happy Ending took Best Musical. I
Mhm.
love that show. I think it's
You were
really
underwhelmed
special.
by the number they.
I guess I was. I didn't love it.
It was
Uh,
interesting that it was like.
But
I mean,
maybe
I haven't
had
seen
to
the rest
see the
of the
whole
show.
thing. That's what I think. I have to see the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, they were adorable.
But the set is so
The
gorgeous.
set is beautiful. Yeah, but they got it for the show. So and of course it's very creative. I think I have to see the
It
entire.
felt like a small number.
Yeah, it is, and there's what is so interesting about the show is that I talk about it like a Pixar movie on stage, and so it has this sort of very small core, but actually the production is quite big, and I think the production also really grows as it goes. They've been very intentional about it. Sort of starts within the confines of a box essentially, and it grows and grows and
Oh,
grows.
interesting.
And that moment that
You're
they
seeing
did on
that
the
tonight?
Tonys,
No, yes, I'm seeing
Yeah.
that tonight.
yeah, and that moment that they did on the Tonys, I think is much more powerful in the context
Right.
of seeing that unfold.
Yeah,
I have to
makes
see the whole thing.
Yeah,
I'm going.
agree. There were other funny little moments, like the actress from Death Becomes Her holding up
Yeah.
a sign that was rude.
You like that?
Because that's a thing that's been going viral on social media, like that one sound. But what if she won and then she was holding the that was rude sign?
I mean, which I think would have been
Even
hilarious
funnier.
too. But that category, the conversation was really so dominated by it being Audra McDonald versus Nicole Scherzinger.
Yeah.
And so I think Jennifer knew
She
what she was
was.
getting.
I knew she was
But
getting it.
also, I love that she had that moment because in a show with two leads, it's Jennifer Simard and Megan Hilty, and they're really
Mhm.
co-leads.
Mhm.
They chose to do a number, which is the number I would have chosen to do if I was producing that show, but it was only featuring Megan Hilty
Yeah.
because that's sort of the big fun dance number towards the start of the show. And so I'm really glad that Jennifer Simard got to sort of equally have her
Right.
moment.
Wait, was Megan
Yeah,
Hilty nominated?
she was. They were
Oh,
both
okay.
nominated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting too, to like, I wonder what would happen if one was and one wasn't. And I guess it's all comes down to like, how much do the awards really matter? Does it change your perspective of how good a show is or how good the actors
Well, I think
are?
revenues go up after these
Yes,
Tonys.
Right.
they have real financial
Yeah,
implications, and
pluses.
but it depends on the award. I will
Right,
say, it's.
right.
I mean, as amazing it is when designers win
Right.
for their work.
That's not
That
going to sell
generally isn't
tickets.
going to sell tickets. The ones that really have financial implications are best musical, best
Right.
play,
Yeah,
best
exactly.
revival of a musical, best revival of a play, and a few of the acting awards.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, for us with Dorian Gray, it's certainly
Mhm.
meaningful because in a one-person show to get Best Actress,
Yes.
Right.
obviously is quite the endorsement of the show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now that's going off in a couple
Yes.
of weeks.
Yeah.
Thank heavens I got my
we have
ticket.
3 more weeks.
Right.
We still have tickets available, although
Okay,
they
good.
are going
Okay,
fast.
I'm gonna
Guys,
rush.
everybody
Yeah,
get the tickets.
But we
Yep.
closed June 29th. It's been an amazing 16-week run.
And when you went into it, did you know the length it was going to be, or
Yeah.
We
did it
did.
extend?
We did. We had a
Yeah.
2-week extension, but it's a really
Hard production.
taxing
Yeah.
show.
On the
and-
Star, don't forget.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
You know,
And so Sarah has earned her rest,
Yeah.
Right.
for sure.
Do you think there were any snubs?
I don't think there were major snubs. I will say this year it felt like there were not a huge amount of surprises. I would say, with the exception of a few categories that felt very competitive in that they were too hard to call in advance.
Right.
There were no major awards this year where I thought, whoa, what a shock.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do any
that
of your
means it's
friends
good.
Yeah.
do like a, what's it called? Like betting, like a ballot?
Yeah,
around
I have a
it?
lot of friends who fill
Yeah.
out their ballot in
So
advance.
fun.
And to that point, most of them were pretty accurate this year.
Nice. I feel like we should do that.
Yeah, it's fun. It's really fun to do.
Next year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, I think there were a lot of influencers there that I saw on social media, which was interesting. I mean, I guess who invites them? Because a lot of them were saying like, "Oh, we're invited to the Tonys,"
Yeah.
and then they're on the carpet, which the carpet's not televised.
And they left us out.
Yeah,
that wasn't good.
That is
Next
sad.
year, we got to get you there.
Yeah, next year.
Next year. It's always
the
another year.
carpet, I believe New York One televises the carpet. But I think a lot of it has moved to social media
Well, we know that.
and various live streams, which is great. I think it's really important in terms of sort of lowering the Broadway age demographic.
Mhm.
But you don't see the influencers when you're there, right? Because they're probably in the back.
They're probably in the balcony.
I'm trying to think. I saw folks with larger social media followings. So like I
Right.
saw Dylan Mulvaney.
Right. Oh yeah, they showed it on the actual like on where we were watching it. What was it on CBS?
It was at CBS.
Yeah, on CBS. They showed Dylan multiple times.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, she's really of the Broadway
Yeah,
community. She was in
fair.
Book of Mormon years
Yeah,
ago.
well, that's the
before she
whole
became
difference. I think
famous.
that is the
Yeah,
difference.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is like very important to get younger folks into the theater. So I think to
Listen,
bring in all those influencers
True.
is a huge
Many times
thing.
when we do publicity for a lot of these shows that they send us to go see, we know that their tickets rise after we talk about it because it's because who's seeing us on TikTok or Instagram influences younger people. So, it is an influence. Is it a major influence? We don't know yet. But
And I will say, I went recently. Trisha Paytas did a
Yeah.
one night only Broadway concert, and I was
How was
there.
that?
And it was amazing, both just because she's amazing and it was so much fun, but also it was so amazing to see that room filled with
people.
people I recognize from TikTok.
right.
And everyone was having the time of their lives.
Taking pictures.
Yes. And I was sitting there and I was like, this is really important for the industry.
Right.
Like,
Yes.
it's going to actually pay dividends.
Yes. And like, yes, it's not about the talent, but it's definitely entertaining. And there's
Totally,
something to
yeah.
say about that.
Totally. And Trisha has I think a lot of it is about the authenticity, right? Which is
Yes.
true of Dylan Mulvaney too. Like,
Right.
Trisha has such an authentic love of this medium
And makes
that it
you-
worked. Yeah,
yeah.
it didn't feel, nothing about it felt fake.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally.
That's very important.
Yeah. I think those were my main moments I wanted to chat about.
Okay.
Anything on your end, Grandma?
No, I just think Henry has done a terrific job with his company. I'm wishing him many, many more successes because I look forward to it. I know he's so talented, and I love when young people get the opportunity to do what he's doing. That's my whole thing in life. It's all about young people doing their thing and being successful or not so successful, but trying. And I think Henry has become successful, so I'm proud of
Thank
him.
you so much. I really appreciate that.
Tell everyone how they can find you, follow you if you
Maybe
want.
they don't
them.
want it. Maybe he doesn't want
Maybe
it.
you don't want to be found. Look up your company.
Yes,
anything you want-
definitely look up the company. It's called Key to the City Productions. Come see Picture of Dorian Gray. We have 3 more weeks. Keep an eye out for future projects. Our next musical is called Galileo, and it is about Galileo. It's a rock musical that
Should be fun.
really explores the tensions between sort of truth and power using Galileo's story. And it's directed by Michael Mayer, who did Spring Awakening and American Idiot.
Amazing.
And it's just this incredible, incredible show that we will have on Broadway hopefully very soon.
Good.
Yeah.
Amazing. You'll have
So
to keep us
excited.
updated.
Yes, absolutely.
And thanks
Yeah.
for coming.
Thank you for having me.
It was so fun talking to Henry. I feel like I learned so much behind the scenes.
Well, he knows so much. And for a young person to have achieved what he's achieved, it's just wonderful. And it gives people really inspiration.
Okay, let's play a quick game of Should We Bring It Back to close out the episode. Broadway edition.
Okay.
Elaborate overtures before the curtain rises. Should we bring it back?
Yeah, I think it's beautiful. But the music has to be really good to listen to. I don't want to listen to just, things that aren't melodious.
Yeah, I like when it's iconic shows and
Yeah,
you like know what
that's
the
true.
songs are gonna be.
Right.
But I would say bring it back.
Yeah, bring it back. Let's try it again.
Bossy choreography, some
Uh.
jazz hands, or leave it in the 60s.
I don't know, unless you have another Bob Fosse, whether you'll ever have that again. If the one comes about, please bring it back.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like let's not bring it back unless it's directly a like cabaret or something.
Exactly.
Dressing up for theater, like truly getting fancy and elegant to go to Broadway.
I don't think you can bring that back. I don't think our dress and our lifestyles are that anymore. I don't think you need to go in sweatpants. You could dress it up a tiny bit, put on a nice pair of jeans. But, life changes.
Yeah, I don't really want to bring it back because I don't want to wear heels to Times Square.
You're
Deal with
right.
that.
You're right.
Yeah.
Right.
And lastly, cheaper ticket prices.
Oh,
think
that
we
we
should bring it
definitely bring it back. That's for
I don't
sure.
know how, but
I don't know how either because everything I bought this season has been very expensive. But I think if you go and are not looking to be in the orchestra and you're willing to sit very far back or on the very high, you can get reasonable seats. But they should lower these prices. But I guess the productions are so expensive. It's very hard to
Yeah.
lower things. They're not in it to lose money, and
Right.
many of them do.
right. Okay. Thank you all so much for listening to Excuse My Grandma. Remember to follow us on social media, Excuse My Grandma. Also, wherever you are listening right now, please subscribe/follow, leave a rating and review. Makes a huge difference to our show. And we will see you soon.
Bye.